Hello and welcome to our video on how to obtain a driver's license in the United States. I am Mike Meyer, I'm an attorney, and I will explain to you what the general rules are for obtaining a driver's license in the United States. This is a very tricky subject. The rules are different in every state. The government agency that you're dealing with is usually called Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV. Depending on the state, the name of the agency can be a little different. Have patience. Because requirements are changing, be prepared for probably 2 or 3 trips to the Department of Motor Vehicles to finally get your driver's license. Here is why. Driver's licenses are state matters, and thus the rules are different in every state. Driver's licenses are universal identification in the United States. You use them also for your bank account and for boarding an airplane. Because of the many illegals who are using fake documents, this is a highly political issue. There's a 2005 law called Real ID, which is being implemented by the various US states until the year 2013. The document requirements are more and more strict. And finally, the employees at the Motor Vehicle Department simply do not understand visa rules, visa documents, or international documents. So be patient. To drive in the United States with your foreign driver's license. Foreign motorists from any of the countries who are parties to the United Nations Convention on Road Traffic or the Convention on the Regulation of Inter-American Motor Vehicle Traffic who visit the United States are authorized to drive with a foreign driver's license for up to 1 year. That is for tourists. As soon as you become a resident or have a work visa in the United States, you are expected to obtain a US driver's license as quickly as possible. You may also drive a personal or a rental car in the United States for up to 1 year with your foreign driver's license. But once again, once you become a resident or have a work permit, you need a US driver's license. How do you obtain a US driver's license? In general, as a foreigner, to obtain a driver's license, you need to prove that you are in legal status in the United States. A tourist visa such as the B1, B2 visa or visa waiver is not sufficient. You have to show your passport, your visa, and the white I-94 card, that white card in your passport. This is a requirement of the Real ID law. You should also bring your foreign driver's license, including an English translation by a certified translator if your driver's license is not in English. If possible, you should also bring an international driver's license, which you can usually obtain at an automotive association. For example, in Germany, it is the ADAC, ADAC. In many states, you have to take at least the written exam, which is usually administered by computer. And usually, the Department of Motor Vehicles makes available to you a booklet with all the questions that are being asked on the written exam. You must also pass a vision test, and you should have a social security number, which will greatly facilitate the process as US states are implementing this Real ID Act gradually. Real ID requires a social security number, and I will come back to that in just a minute. I mentioned the International Driver's License, also sometimes called International Driver's Permit, IDP. To drive in the United States, you should have an International Driver's Permit or International Driver's License before coming to the United States. It verifies that you hold a valid license in your country, and it also serves as a translation of your driver's license. Contact the Automobile Association or driving authorities in your home country to get this international driving permit before you come to the United States. If you obtain a valid international driver's permit from your home country before you come to the United States, you may rent a car and drive before you get your US driver's license. Check with the rental car company. If you're going to reside in the United States, you can get a US driver's license once you're in the United States, but it may take several months to obtain the US driver's license, as I mentioned to you. You have to be patient. Foreign visitors who become US residents can only obtain the foreign driver's license from the state in which they reside. Each state has its own rules and regulations. Once you receive your U.S. driver's license from a state, you will be permitted to drive in all other U.S. states. The laws in each state vary from one to another. It is your responsibility to know and obey the laws of the state while driving. If you are a foreign student coming to the United States to study, contact the university or college that you will attend. They have a foreign student advisor, also called designated school official, and most institutions provide students with additional information on how to obtain a driver's license in their particular state. The US government has issued warnings about internet vendors of international driver's licenses that are not accepted. It is very important, if you obtain such an international driver's license, that it is a real one. So please contact your own Department of Motor Vehicles in the country where you live or an automobile association. Let me give you a few examples from a few of the United States individual states. California. Contrary to popular belief, you do not need an international driver's license in California. Your foreign driver's license is sufficient. However, you have to have an English translation of your driver's license, and therefore the international driver's license will be very helpful. You will need to get a California driver's license if you plan to buy a car and if you plan to drive after 1 year in the United States. Let me give you another example, Washington, D.C. To obtain a driver's license in Washington, D.C., it is easier if you have a foreign driver's license. There's a written test that is required for all non-US citizens, even those who possess a foreign driver's license. A road test, means a practical test, is usually not required if you have a foreign driver's license. And also, you do not have to hand in your foreign driver's license, but you must provide a certified translation for your foreign driver's license. And once again, I recommend that you have an international driver's license as well. You can obtain a driver's license in Washington, D.C. if you have an authorized stay in the United States of at least 6 months. That means that you will not be able to obtain a Washington, D.C. driver's license if you come on the visa waiver, which only authorizes a stay of 90 days, or even with a B1, B2, which only authorizes a maximum of 6 months. Non-US citizens with a notice of action from the Immigration Service may be issued a temporary Washington, D.C. driver's license or an identification card, which basically looks like a driver's license but is only for identification purposes for the duration of the processing time of your immigration case at the immigration authority for a maximum of up to 18 months. Once again, non-US citizens with only a visitor visa or with a visa waiver cannot obtain a driver's license in Washington, D.C. Here is what you have to show at the Department of Motor Vehicles in Washington, D.C. to obtain your driver's license. Proof of name, date of birth, and duration of stay and status. For that, you should have your passport, your visa in your passport, and the white I-94 card. You should also have proof of a social security number. Now, we have a separate video on how to obtain a social security number, and it will take a while to obtain the social security number. So you should rely on the exception, drive with your foreign driver's license and the international driver's license until you have your social security number, and then can provide proof of the social security number to the Department of Motor Vehicles. You also have to provide proof of DC residency, which could be, for example, 2 utility bills, for example, for gas or electricity. And then, of course, you have to meet the testing requirements. You have to pass the written exam administered on a computer and a vision test. Here's another example, Maryland. In Maryland, to obtain a driver's license for the first time, you actually have to schedule an appointment. You have to call the Department of Motor Vehicles, schedule the appointment, and bring a variety of documents with you. As a foreign applicant, you have to bring with you a valid employment authorization card or a valid passport with a valid US visa and a valid I-94 card, or a valid permanent resident card, meaning you're a permanent resident. Then, in order to obtain your driver's license in Maryland, you must pass a vision test, the knowledge test, and also a driving test. So there's a practical test involved in Maryland. Also, Maryland requires your social security number. That's the same problem as before. It will take a few weeks before you obtain your social security number. Also in Maryland, if you have never been licensed in the United States before, you must complete a 3-hour drug and alcohol education program. As you have seen, the requirements in each state are different, but the bottom line is you need a valid visa in the United States, valid for more than 6 months, a valid passport, and a valid I-94 card. And all states will be requiring the Social Security number. 7 states do not require the Social Security number yet, but will do so by the year 2013. Let me give you 2 examples to alert you to some of the problems with having and maintaining a driver's license in the United States. Number 1, you may arrive here in the United States on a work visa. Let's say it is an L1A visa. You are transferred as a manager to the United States. Your visa will expire probably after 3 years, and you will apply for an extension of your L1A visa. But the problem is your driver's license that you received when you arrived in the United States will probably expire at the same time with your visa. Once the extension for your visa has been filed, you are in lawful status in the United States. You're allowed to remain in the United States, and you're allowed to continue working. However, your driver's license is expired. If you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and apply for an extension of your driver's license, most likely you will be turned down. The employees there do not understand visa regulations. They do not understand that you are in legal status. We have been able to successfully resolve that problem on behalf of clients in Virginia, for example, by contacting the central authority of the Department of Motor Vehicles in Richmond. They were able to contact the local office where our client lived, and then finally they got the extension of the driver's license issued there. We tried the same thing in California, but there we were denied. So the only solution that the client had was to wait until the extension of his visa was approved, leave the United States, get a new visa, come back in with a new visa and a new I-94 card, and obtain a new or an extended driver's license. Here's another problem that you may encounter if you are here on a work visa in the United States and need a driver's license. We had one case where a gentleman's visa was expiring and he wanted to go on vacation for Christmas. He was planning to return just a few days before his visa was to expire. That is okay, but the problem is he was readmitted to the United States for only 5 days until his visa expired. So his I-94 card was valid for only 5 days. We had to rush to file for an extension of his visa while he was back in the country, and of course his driver's license expired. While the extension is pending, as I reported about the other case, he could not get his driver's license extended. So you have to plan carefully. If you're here in the United States and your visa is expiring, you have to plan in a way that you have the approval of your visa extension or of your status extension, preferably before your old one expires. Otherwise, you will run into one of these problems that I described to you. If you have more questions about a driver's license, look at the website of the Department of Motor Vehicles in the state where you live or where you're planning to live. And you may need the assistance of your immigration attorney in order to obtain the driver's license or obtain an extension. Thank you.